say, a Speedway sidecar, what are some of the challenges that you have as opposed to, say, dynoing a street race bike or something?
Street bike, we look for smoothness and everything. We're not looking so much for the power and that, but for a race bike that goes through road race and everything, we're looking for more torque, the horsepower obviously, but getting your air fuel right is the most important thing. If you don't get that right, nothing works. That's what we look for, is the air fuel. You know, and once you get that right, everything falls into place. Then you can play around with timing. You can put timing in or timing out. Sometimes it'll give you more torque there and not so much torque anywhere else. But air fuel is one of the main things. That's what we do.
So I notice here you're running like a street sort of wet tyre on the back. Why is that? And what do you does that give you a base to go off with your numbers or anything, or is that just what you have to do with a sidecar?
Well, what we do there with that tyre, what it does, that gives us more consistent runs where on my dyno, some people can just use the normal Speedway tyre, which works, but if I use that, it seems to slip. Most probably I haven't got enough grip on it, but I put this tyre on and I get no slip whatsoever. I get consistent runs, and that's what your dyno is mainly about, getting consistent runs, and that way if you make a change, you can see if it's made it better or made it worse. So that's why I've used that tyre. That tyre I've used all on the Speedway bikes. That's just set up for that. Same gearing on every bike that I do. Yeah, that's a good tyre. Just you don't get any slip, so every run you get's accurate. That's the reason for that.
Now, with tuning and things like that, with engines in general, you obviously have to have a pretty good understanding of the four-stroke sort of principle. But how come some people chase really high horsepower numbers? Like, is there an advantage or disadvantage to that, or is it just sort of to say, oh, my bike's got this much power?
Horsepower and some things you've really got to have. In dirt track on speedways is not as important. It's more torque you've got to have, because they only run the little skinny wheels. The more torque you get, the more grunt it's got, and that seems to... The horsepower numbers is mainly for the pub. Yeah, that's about all that's for. That's pub torque. But yeah, and you look at your two graphs and you see where everything's working, and when you change your air fuel and all that, you can see if you lose torque or that, sometimes you might need more fuel there, and that'll give you the extra torque. Sometimes it takes out. Every bike's different. Like every bike that I've dynoed, not once can I use that map in that bike, because it's just all wrong. So that's why we do custom and tuned maps and that for them, for each
through the final tune on this bike, do you have a preferred brand that you like to work on, or is it something that you sort of just take whatever?
He's gotten a little bit loose, but he keeps going up, and away he goes. Fish over the back, and Brady, but up the front, Beanie. Brandon now just about to be chased out.
Whatever comes in, we just do it. As in brand, you mean the bike or the software that I use?
Both. So if you've
both,
got...
yeah. It doesn't matter what motors they are, and your software can vary. This one, well, it's injection, but a lot of the other Speedway bikes are usually just carburetted, so it doesn't matter. It's the same principle. just you just chase your air fuel, and that's where you get all your maximum performance. And what I like to do is get the maximum out of it, and then at least I know I've done my job. Then it's up to you guys to play with that to make it work on you.
Why would you say dyno tuning is, like, what are some of the pros to getting a dyno tune?
Well, the pros of it is you make a change, you know if it works. That's the good part about the dyno. It takes all your guesswork out. That's the main part. Take all your guesswork out, and that's what I like to do, is get your maximum performance, and then it's up. Dirt track and road racing is a little bit different, because you don't get your wheel spins like you do on the Speedway. So, yeah, a lot of people kind of don't like the dynos, but it stops all the bullshit, really. That works for that bike. There's your maximum performance.
So Barry, we just did a couple of pulls then. What were you trying to achieve then, or what were you looking for?
Well, first off, we had seen we just bringing it up slowly, getting the temp up to the right temp before we get into it, just get everything all warm so everything's fine. Then we get it up to the right, around about the racing temperature that we want, so we know what we're chasing at, so it doesn't alter. So we just did a couple of runs. We're looking for consistency in the runs every time, which we look at the graph, it's pretty well spot on where we want it. Just consistency is the way. We've already tuned it, just to make sure everything's spot on.
Now, on a race day, it's very rare that people have access to a dyno, so do you believe that will give Darren and Jake a bit of an edge, or a bit more peace of mind?
I'd say it'd be more peace of mind that know that it's all good. Well, I've done the best that I can, so I hand it over to them. If they don't perform, well, I can get up then. That's about all that is. I know I've done my part, but as we said before, I get the maximum out of what I can get out of it, and then we've got to change things for that to work on the track. So, it's just not one particular thing, it's a whole team thing.
So Barry, I've noticed that this is your job, but you seem to have a lot more passion towards it. What's the draw card? Like, most people could just sit back and tune, a couple of road bikes here or there, and it wouldn't really be, the end of the world, but you seem to do a lot of racing stuff.
Like the old man from that, we were bought into it, and all my growing up days was at a racetrack, and it just gets into your blood, and to help guys, which is what I like to do now, because I don't race now, so I'm finished racing, too old, lost a leg, but Darren's coming through the ranks, and you get a bit of satisfaction out of it, seeing what you've done and help them boys progress. So that's most probably passion into it. Yeah, I do help a few other guys out as much as I can.
Just touching on your involvement in the sport, you did have a very long involvement providing a bike yourself for Wayne Monk, and that was a pretty cool relationship, because it's no secret I'm a huge fan of Monkey and old George and the crew. But what was it like to provide a bike for Monkey and have George in and out all the time and all that sort of deal?
I think we did that for about 10 years, mate. It was that was great. We had a ball, mate. We just, we loved racing. We went away. Monkey, he's a pretty funny guy once you get to know him. You know, when you first get to know him, he's a bit of an idiot, but once you get to know Monkey, mate, he's a really good bloke. And we'd go away, we'd have fun, but he was real good with the bike itself. Not that we had much trouble with it, but if he didn't think something was right, he'd come back in and say, "Can you hear that?" You know, and we'd listen to it or something. And then one time there we were racing, and he says, "Oh," he says, "I think it's got a bit of a noise," you know, and we'd come back in the pits and we listened to it, and we had a little bit of a noise there anyway, so we called it quits that night. And we're up north, but we called it quits. So brought it back and put it on the dyno. I couldn't get the noise, and all of a sudden it just locked up, and well, Monkey was right, there was something wrong with it. When we pulled it down, the crank was broken in half, so he's, you know, for that, he, you know, most probably another fella would just keep on going, and eventually the whole thing would have blown up and being a lot more money, you know, but he's always listening out for it, and yeah, no, he was really good to do those 10 years with. That's what got me back into, or not back into it, but got me into the Speedway, was with him and old George, you know. We just travel, and old George would never shut up, and that's what kept me awake when we used to do our long hours. We'd go up to Townsville Saturday morning, and we'd be back Sunday about 1 o'clock, you know, to just leave the track. And yeah, a lot of fun times with Monkey, but well, he's finished now, but he had a ride a little while ago, and I went out and showed some of the good guys what it was all about, but yeah, I think he's going to retire now, and at least a few people now can remember the last time he rode, he blitzed a few people, you know, which is good.
Travel thing, because you have one of the craziest approaches to travel ever. There is no way we could ever be on a team together, because I would be sopping and crying straight away. But why? Why do you leave the track immediately to come back?
I really don't know. I just like to do our racing and get home again. And you know, when we travel through the night, we don't have traffic. We get a pretty good run all the way through. You only got a few roos. I think since I've been going up north, I don't think I've hit any roos. But when I go down south, all of a sudden they want to come out and we collect more down south. But yeah, I just like to get it over and done with. It's not so much the money side of it, you know, staying an extra night at the motel or anything like that. It's just what I do, and I like driving, and yeah, I just do it, get it back, and we start again. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us down at Barry's Dyno today, Barry, and thanks for shining a bit of a light onto what goes in behind a race day with the boys today, but just in sort of what you do as well.